CBS News has fired one of its top executives. Jeff Fager, executive producer of 60 Minutes, lost his job over a threatening text message to a coworker. She was investigating reports Fager groped women at parties and permitted an abusive workplace. Fager is the third major figure at CBS to be fired over alleged misconduct. Joining me now is Amber Athey, media and breaking news editor for the Daily Caller. Amber, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
In a statement, Jeff Fager said, I want to quote him here, "One such note should not result in termination after 36 years, but it did." What does it say about the culture at CBS that he thinks that seeing this text message would be appropriate for any reason?
It's certainly problematic, and when I first heard his response before the text message actually came out, my first thought was, it sounds like he's trying to downplay what he actually did here. He said his words were harsh. They were more than just harsh. He was essentially threatening this reporter with her job. The text message said, you need to, quote, be careful when investigating these allegations against me, and this is someone who is an executive producer at 60 Minutes for basically over a decade, telling a lower level reporter that she needs to be careful when investigating him. And so for that to come across as anything other than intimidation or threatening is just ridiculous. And for him to downplay that and suggest that he didn't do anything wrong just shows how entrenched a lot of these men feel about the misconduct they've been able to permit at their own networks.
Fager's departure, of course, follows the resignation this weekend of CBS chief Les Moonves after accusations by a dozen women of sexual misconduct. And Moonves could receive more than $100 million in severance if an investigation finds his allegations to be unsubstantiated. But what message do you think that sends to women who come forward at CBS and to victims in general?
The whole idea that this person could essentially be rewarded for having these allegations come against him. He gets to take an early retirement. He racks up millions of dollars in severance pay. He's not going to face any charges because all of the statutes of limitations have passed. We're looking at a person who was accused by a dozen women of not only sexual harassment, but sexual assault. Those are very serious accusations. For it to even be a question of him possibly receiving money from the board at this point, I think just shows that CBS is more interested in covering up abuse than they are in bringing it to light and making sure that those people are held accountable.
Now, CBS has said it would deduct $20 million from any severance he would receive and donate it to organizations like the Me Too movement. But is that going to help in sort of rehabilitating CBS's image?
No, I mean, if they were to give $20 million to charity, then they're basically saying that they're still giving $80 million to Moonves, a person who, again, was accused of a dozen women of sexual harassment and sexual assault. You have to look at the fact that they've had Charlie Rose, Les Moonves, their CEO, who had been there for 2 decades, and now Jeff Fager, 3 high-profile people at the network in a row. For them to say that a donation is going to clear their name, it simply doesn't add up.
Let me follow up with that because Moonves has been the entertainment division, the president, since 1995. Jeff Fager was only the second person to head 60 Minutes in its 50-year history. Does this type of entrenched leadership, people who have been around for so long, lead to this corporate culture, do you think, that's ripe with abuse?
Not necessarily. I think there's something to be said for if you're doing a good job at the network and you are there for a really long time, that doesn't necessarily mean, of course, that you're going to abuse that power. But the problem is that some of these people are so powerful that when you have people like, in Jeff Fager's case, an intern accused him of groping her at a party, who is the network supposed to believe in that case? And too many times they immediately side with the person who's accused. And in the CBS case, the board actually was planning on siding 100% with Moonves. The only reason that they turned on him was that they found out that despite denying the allegations, he was planning on getting one of his accusers a job at the network in order to try to shut her up.
So many moral and ethical problems, to say the least. Amber Athey, media and breaking news editor for the Daily Caller, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.